Assalamualaikum and a very good day to everyone. We are Group 4A from the Bachelor of Quantity Surveying program. For our case study analysis under the subject BQS560 Project Management 1, we will be presenting on the topic Pre-Construction Planning and Cash Flow Management of a Main Contractor. The case study analysis on the real project involving the upgrading and refurbishment of Arena Badminton Aman Jaya in Ipoh, Perak, which was managed by Pharmaceutical Sdn Berhad. Before I begin, let me introduce our group members. Myself, Siti SAHIRA binti AZMI, Muhammad Hadief Amany bin MASSROL HISSHAM, Muhammad IRFAN HANIF bin ZAHARUDDIN, Muhammad ZHAFRAN bin ZUBIR, and Siti SAHIRA binti GHANI. Each of us will be covering different sections of a case study. I will start with the introduction. 1.0 Introduction. This case study highlights the importance of the pre-construction stage, especially from the perspective of a main contractor. The project selected is not a new construction, but rather a refurbishment and upgrading of an existing facility. This type of project often involve more detailed planning, especially when they are located in active public areas. In this case, the contractor Pharmaceutical Sdn Berhad focused on three key areas during the early phase of the project. The first one is project planning, the second one is resource management, and the last one is cash flow forecasting before site mobilization. The goal was to understand how these elements were handled in a real construction setting and how they help prepare the contractor before any physical work began on site.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I would like to share and continue the 2.0 section, which is an overview of our case study. Firstly, let's look into the company background. Our chosen case study is Pharmaceutical Sdn Berhad, a reputable and experienced company in the Malaysian construction industry. Established on 15 October 1999, the company has accumulated over 26 years of expertise in delivering high-quality construction projects. It is headquartered at Ipoh, Perak, and operates as a fully authorized building construction contractor, actively contributing to the development of Malaysia's built environment. Pharmaceutical Sdn Berhad is recognized as a Grade G6 contractor under CIDB Malaysia. This classification is one of the higher grades within the CIDB system and signifies the company capability to manage medium to large-scale projects, including those with complex technical and structural requirements. Throughout its years of operation, Pharmaceutical Sdn Berhad has successfully delivered a diverse portfolio of construction projects. These include residential development, commercial complex, industrial structures, and various public infrastructure initiatives. The company proudly serves clients from both the private and public sectors, showcasing its flexibility and strong presence in the national construction landscape.
3.1 Project Name and Type. The project involved is titled Cadangan Menarik Taraf dan Ubah Suai di Arena Badminton Aman Jaya, Ipoh, Perak, Darul Rizwan. This is a public sector project by Bastis Bandaraya Ipoh with the objective of improving the function, safety, and comfort of well-used badminton arena located within Complex Sukan MBI, near Stadium Indira Mulia in Ipoh, Perak. The arena is regularly used by the local community for recreation, training, and competitions. Because of its public importance, this project is classified as a public infrastructure project under the sport and recreational category, with the building used for community and public use, and the nature of work being the refurbishment and upgrading an existing facility. Since the arena was still operating before construction started, the contractor had to plan carefully to minimize disruption and ensure safety. The works involve architectural redesign, structural improvement, and mechanical and electrical upgrades, all of which require close coordination between the project stakeholders. 3.2 Project Value and Estimated Duration. Now moving on to the project cost and timeline. The original contract price, excluding GST, was 8,620,579 ringgit Malaysia. After adding 6% GST, the total became 9,137,810 and 56 cents ringgit Malaysia. As the project progressed, several variation orders were issued, including adjustment to the earthwork, skirting, and lighting upgrades. There was also a small omission in the scope related to the existing court slab. These changes were formally approved under the PAM 2006 conditions. The total value of the variation, including GST, was 716,208.91 cents ringgit Malaysia, which brought the revised fixed contract sum to 9,854,019.47 ringgit Malaysia. The project duration remained unchanged at 50 weeks, with site possession on the 16th of January 2017 and scheduled completion on the 31st of December 2017. Despite the additional work, no extension of time was granted, which means that the contractor had to manage these changes within the original timeline. A key financial strategy used in this project was the deed of assignment, valued at 870,249.40 cents ringgit Malaysia. Under these agreements, selected high-cost items such as retractable seating and the HVAC system were paid directly by the client to the suppliers, but still certified through the contractor and consultants. This approach helped reduce financial pressure on the contractor without increasing the total project cost. To summarize, the project started with a contract value of around 9.14 million ringgit Malaysia, increased to 9.85 million ringgit Malaysia, and was still complete within the original timeline, thanks to the good pre-construction planning and financial control. That concludes my part of the presentation. Now I will pass over to the SITI SAHIRA, who will be continue with the next section of our case study. Thank you.
This project involves several key parties, each with their own role. The client is Majlis Bandaraya Ipoh MBI. They are the project owner and make sure everything runs smoothly and meets public needs. The architect is Cityscape Architect, in charge of the building's design and layout. The civil and structural engineer is Pay Structures, responsible for making sure the building is strong and safe. The quantity surveyor is ZQS Consult, who handles the project budget and cost control. The main contractor is Promosi Tegas Sendirian Berhad, who carry out the actual construction work on site. And finally, the mechanical and electrical engineer is KBM Consult Sendirian Berhad, who manage the electrical, plumbing, and fire safety systems. Now, let's move into the role of client, consultants, and contractor. First, let's look at the role of the client. The client is responsible for monitoring the project to make sure everything is done properly and follows safety and building regulation. They do this by visiting the site, attending progress meetings, and reviewing consultants' report. On top of that, the client must ensure that the building is safe, durable, and suitable for long-term use, since they are the future owner and user of the building. Next, we have the consultant, which include the architect, structural engineer, quantity surveyor, and M&E engineer. Their main role is to act as technical advisors and make sure the work follows the approved drawing and specification. Consultants also help to solve design problems and give technical instruction when needed. Finally, the contractor, which in this case is Promosi Tegas Sendirian Berhad, is in charge of doing the actual construction work. Other than that, the contractor manages all the labor, materials, equipment, and subcontractor on the site. They are also responsible for submitting documents like method statement and work program, and they must follow all safety and environmental rules.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hadief Amany bin HISSHAM. So today in this video, I will explain about the work breakdown structure or WBS for the Arena Badminton Amany project in Ipoh Perak. And the work breakdown structure is a method that divides the whole project into smaller manageable parts. This helps the team to focus on each element while managing the project successfully in terms of time, budget, and resources. And this structure allows the teams to allocate specific works to contractor more efficiently, plan the work more precisely, and monitor progress throughout the project duration. And according to LC et al. 2018, the formulation of WBS allowed the project to be better defined in terms of resources needed and the expected completion time. And based on the table that I stated in this slide, these are examples of how work breakdown structure is worked. So without further ado, let's go for the next slide. Work breakdown structure or WBS for the Arena Badminton Amany project in Ipoh. So the WBS is a very important planning tool because it breaks down the entire project into smaller, manageable tasks and helps project team plan systematically and ensure no work package is missed out during construction. So here we can see the baseline duration for start and finish dates and the cost for each main task in the table stated. So as you can see, for preliminary, the duration is around 215 days, which starting from 16 January to 20 October 2017, with the cost around 581,840 ringgit. So for the piling works, it takes only 56 days from 10 February to 1 May, with costing around 233,700 ringgit. And this include piling installation and pilot testing to prepare proper foundation support. Next, for demolition works, the higher cost it takes is around 4,444,666 ringgit, with spending 200 days from the 15 February to 21 November 2017. It involves demolishing existing structure and making necessary modification before new works begin. And for architectural works, the duration takes around 19 days with cost of 730,210 ringgit, involving construction of wall, ceiling, and floor. Include the finishes and furniture. So for the external work, it takes around 138 days and costing around 744,338 ringgit for tasks such as drainage, fencing, road and landscaping. And for MAE works run for 119 days with the cost 1,820,438 ringgit, including electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, and fire safety installation. So lastly, testing and commissioning is planned for 43 days with no record direct cost, and handing over is scheduled on 29 December 2017. So for overall, this table gives us a clear overview of the project overall schedule and cost allocation of each work package, so which is crucial for monitoring progress and ensuring we stay within the budget and timeline. Moving on to the next slide, I will explain about resource planning, which is part of the planning stage activity. So resource planning involves labor, material, and equipment management to ensure the project runs smoothly without delays. So first, I will explain about labor planning. And the purpose for the labor planning is to reduce delays, improve productivity, and ensure maintenance work is carried out properly. For example, allocating the right number of work for piling, roofing, and architectural work to avoid work stoppage. And second is material planning. The purpose is to ensure correct quantity and quality of material available at the right time to avoid delays and cost overruns. So, for example, situation is ordering concrete and steel beam in advance for superstructure works, so to prevent site idling. And third is equipment planning. And the purpose for the equipment planning is to select, schedule, and maintain machinery to match project tasks. So it also can plan the logistic of moving of heavy equipment. So the site will not be busy and the work will operate more smoothly. And for example, ensuring crane and piling rigs are available on site before piling works begin. So on the right side, you can see there is a resource planning table for labor. So each row represents different equipment of resource. Also, the columns show their usage duration and planning schedule. And this table helps in monitoring the labor planning availability to prevent project delays. So overall, effective resource planning will ensure that labor, material, and equipment are well coordinated. So this will leading to smooth workflow and achieving the project target time and cost. So that's all for me.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. So for this slide, I will continue it. Before a project begins, it's crucial for the contractor to have a clear plan, and that's where a Gantt chart comes in. Let me start with the definition. A Gantt chart is a tool used by project managers to visually plan and track the progress of a project time. It shows each task in the project, the duration, and how all the tasks are connected and aligned. This helps project team manage deadline, milestone, and resources more effectively, making sure everything runs smoothly and on schedule. Now looking at the chart for the area badminton IPO project, this chart was proposed for a 250-day project duration from January to December 2015. It starts with preliminary works and ends with system testing, commissioning, and final inspection before handover. As you can see, each work package includes task name, duration in days, estimated cost, and the schedule for start and finish. By planning everything visually like this, the contractor, promosi tegas senior berhad, could identify when each activity should begin and, more importantly, when money would be needed. This planning tool allows them to avoid sudden large cash outflow, spread out spending, and stay in control of both time and budget before the work even begins. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad ZHAFRAN bin ZUBIR. I will continue to talk about the cash flow management before construction. Let's start by talking about initial capital investment. Before any construction work can begin, the contractor needs to make sure there is enough money ready to cover the early costs. This is what we call initial capital investment, which is money that the contractor has to spend before getting paid by the client. It is like the contractor is investing upfront to get the project moving. These early costs include many important things. For example, bringing workers and machines to the site, setting up the site office and fencing, buying the first batch of construction materials, getting all the needed permits and insurance, and many more. All of this must be paid for first before the contractor can even send the first claim for payment to the client. If the contractor doesn't plan for these expenses properly, the whole project can be delayed. That's why it is important to estimate how much money is needed at the beginning. It helps avoid cash shortage and keeps the project on track. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine the contractor is given the project worth 10 million. If they are required to complete 15% of the work before being paid, and it is cost 1.2 million to do that, they must have that 1.2 million ready in advance. Now, the contractor has two choices. They can either use the company's own savings or apply for a bank loan to cover the cost. But if they can't get the money in time, they won't be able to pay for labor, materials, or machinery, and the project may get stuck before it even begins. That's why this step, which are identifying and planning for the initial capital investment, is so important. It helps the contractor keep the work moving, avoid delays, and manage finances wisely from the very beginning. Next, let's talk about something that plays a big role in keeping a construction project running smoothly, which is cash inflow and outflow forecasting, and something we call capital lockup. In simple terms, cash inflow is the money coming in, usually from the client's payment. Cash outflow is the money going out, like paying workers, buying materials, renting equipment, and setting other expenses such as insurance or permit. For a contractor, it is important to carefully estimate how much money will be spent and how much will be received every month. This helps us avoid delays or financial stress during the construction phase. One of the biggest challenges in the process is capital lockup. This happens when the contractor has already spent money on work but has not received any payment from the client yet. For example, we start a project in January and only receive the first payment in March. That means the money we use in January and February is tied up. We can't use it for anything else. This can be risky, especially if there are no extra funds to cover regular bills like staff salaries or supplier payments. That's why having a proper cash flow forecast is so important. By linking our financial plan with the project timeline, we can predict when our money will be locked up and plan how to manage it. Now, let me walk you through a real project example where cash flow planning played a critical role, which is the Arena Badminton Amanjaya project. Before the construction work officially started, the contractor, which is Promosi Tegas Sdn Bhd, had prepared a detailed cash flow forecast. This included planning for both cash inflow and cash outflow even before stepping onto the site. If we look the financial S-curve for this project, we can clearly see how the money was planned. For January and February 2017, there were no major expenditures. That's because the project was still in the pre-construction project. During this period, the team was focusing on things like finalizing designs, submitting permit applications, and handling tender documents. But by March 2017, things changed. The spending suddenly jumped to 3,000 ringgit, 300,000 ringgit. That's when the site mobilization and preparation activities began. This included building temporary site facilities, hiring workers, buying early materials, and arranging bonds and insurance. And the spending didn't stop there. In April, it increased to 1.37 million, and by May, it reached 1.81 million. All of this shows how financial demand grows quickly during the early stages of physical construction. What's important here is that during those first 2 months, the contractor had no incoming cash from the client yet. The first actual cash inflow, around 200,000 ringgit, only came in March. That means for January and February, the contractor had to depend entirely on internal company funds or possibly bank loans to keep things going. This is a clear example of what we call capital lockup, where money is spent up front but payments are delayed. It highlights the importance of having strong financial planning and backup funding to avoid interruptions. Because of proper forecasting and financial control, Promosi Tegas Sdn Bhd was able to manage the early phase smoothly, keeping the project on schedule, avoiding delays, and ensuring all suppliers and workers were paid on time. Now, let's talk about something very important, which is where the money comes from to fund a construction project. This is what we refer to as the sources of funding. In the case of promosi tegas Senja Merhad, the contractor used two main sources to finance their project, which are internal company funds and bank loans. Let's start with the first one, which is internal funds. This is basically the company's own savings or financial reserves. Using their own money gives the contractor flexibility and speed. For example, when something urgent comes up on site or there is a need to make quick decisions, they don't have to wait for bank approval or client payments. They can move fast and keep the project on track. But there is also a downside. Company funds are limited. If they use too much of their own money, the client delays payment or unexpected costs appear, the company might struggle to cover ongoing expenses. That's why internal funding alone is not always enough, especially for larger or longer projects. This brings us to the second option, which is bank loans. These loans give contractors access to larger sums of money. For example, they can use loans to pay subcontractors, buy materials in bulk, or handle expensive stages of the project. While loans come with interest and repayment schedules, they help the contractor take on big responsibilities without worrying about cash flow in the short term. What's important is to use both sources wisely. For example, a contractor might use internal funds for smaller, fast-moving expenses and rely on bank loans for bigger purchases. Also, by aligning the loan repayment schedule with the client's payment schedule, the contractor can make sure they always have enough cash to pay back the bank on time. So, in short, by combining internal funds and bank loans properly, Promosi Tegas Sdn Bhd was able to keep the project running smoothly, which is without delays, without running out of money, and without damaging relationships with workers or suppliers. So that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
So during the interview with contractor, he had mentioned to us a few strategy that they use during Arena Badminton Ipoh project, uh, used by them to manage the financial risk before mobilization. So one of the key used by them is the deed of assignment, or the short form is DOA. Okay, due to limited upfront capital, the contractor couldn't pay certain high-cost specialist suppliers like returnable seats and HVAC system. So instead, they negotiated with the client, Majlis Bandaraya Ipoh, to directly pay the suppliers. A total of around 3 million was assigned to four suppliers under this strategy. For example, 817,249 ringgit was assigned directly to Prince Bina Sdn Bhd. This approach significantly reduced financial pressure on the contractor, while also increasing supplier confidence through guarantee payments from the client. The contractor still manage coordination but without the cash flow burden. Overall, this was a smart move, maintain progress without risking financial instability. Okay, so the second strategy usually used by the contractor to manage the financial before mobilization is the preparation of a Gantt chart or construction schedule. This timeline of project activities help the contractor understand when each phase would start and end. More importantly, it allowed them to plan when money would be needed, avoiding surprise large cash outflows. The Gantt chart also enables staggered spending. For example, materials could be purchased in phases and workers or labor could be brought in gradually instead of paying everything upfront. This helps save on working capital. Additionally, It highlights critical tasks that must be completed on time to prevent delays and extra costs. In summary, the Gantt chart gave the contractor better control over both time and money, reducing financial risk before the actual work begins. Thank you.
To conclude this presentation, the case study on the Arana Badminton Amanjaya project clearly shows how important good planning and financial management are in determining the success of a construction project. The contractor's use of a detailed work breakdown structure, along with proper scheduling tools like the Gantt chart, help the team manage resources effectively and stay on track. Even with several variation orders, they were able to maintain the original 50-week contract period, which reflect their strong project control. Financially, the contractor took smart steps early on. By planning for monthly cash flows and using a deed of assignment, they avoided major liquidity problems and built trust with suppliers and subcontractors. Overall, this project proved that integrating technical and financial planning, coordinating closely with stakeholders, and preparing for risk are not just best practice, they are essential pillars of project success. This case reflects the practical application of project management theories and remind us that the pre-construction phase is a crucial foundation for the entire project life cycle.